The historic city of Paris has borne witness to an entire century of tennis legends, devastating heartbreaks, and seemingly impossible comebacks upon the famous red clay courts of Roland Garros. Within these grounds, veteran tournament officials could orchestrate the Grand Slam in their sleep, alongside security teams who have handled every manifestation of crowd chaos throughout the decades along with them. The notoriously discerning French public is famously difficult to impress. Always slow to surrender their hearts to any rising athlete, yet none of that historic institutional memory mattered when a 20-year-old young woman from the city of Manila walked directly out onto an ordinary practice court, casually picked up her tennis racket, and commenced hitting routine forehands, not in the high-stakes environment of an official match, nor under the blinding lights of a grand finale. But during a basic warm-up session, the walkways instantaneously flooded with an overwhelming sea of humanity draped in red, white, blue, and yellow, packing the corridors so closely that security found themselves completely unable to navigate the dense crowd. The immense noise rising from that gathering was not the polite applause typically associated with tennis enthusiasts. It was a thunderous roar, a powerful sound that had been building inside the hearts of millions for an incredibly long time. Before venturing further into this narrative, it is vital to ask yourself this fundamental question. What kind of human being possesses the extraordinary cultural power to generate that level of absolute pandemonium simply by arriving at a basic training session? The answer defines something essential about global sporting identity, national pride, and what human beings are truly hungry for on a spiritual level, something no electronic scoreboard has ever been capable of measuring. Her name is Alexandra Eala, currently holding the position of world number 38. And just 20 years of age. If that name happens to be new to you, pay close attention right now, because it certainly will not remain unfamiliar for long. Whether she lifts the trophy at Roland Garros or falls in the first round, she has already accomplished something magnificent that Serena Williams, Steffi Graf, and every other champion who kissed that trophy never did. She single-handedly made an entire continent feel as though it genuinely belonged within the elite realm of tennis. However, this journey does not begin in Paris, nor with the chanting, flags, or electricity crackling through those side courts. Instead, it traces its genesis back to a 12-year-old girl standing at an airport in Manila, luggage at her feet and her heart pounding, about to board a long-haul flight away from everything familiar, her home, her family, and the only comfortable version of herself she had ever known. She was journeying toward a future so uncertain and demanding that grown adults have frequently buckled under its weight. She was flying directly to Mallorca, Spain, to enter the prestigious Rafael Nadal Academy, a place where academy is merely a polite, sanitized euphemism for what that environment actually represents. It is quite literally a competitive human forge designed to find every soft edge inside your character and grind it down to absolute nothingness. The philosophy of that institution, baked into every grueling drill on the red clay, descends directly from the legendary man who built it. The same unyielding philosophy that transformed a boy from a small Spanish island into the most decorated, relentless clay court champion the sport has ever produced. The message is brutally simple. Comfort will inevitably betray you. Suffering is the ultimate teacher, and greatness only resides on the other side of the exact moment you decide to quit. A homesick, disoriented 12-year-old girl walked into that unforgiving environment, and instead of breaking under pressure, she resolutely learned to survive, quietly, stubbornly, and completely absorbing every piece of that Spartan methodology. Fast forward 8 long years to the vibrant city of Miami, where she enters a prestigious tournament as a wildcard entry, ranked well outside the world's top 40 players. This is precisely the kind of overlooked name that most elite athletes merely glance at briefly on the official tournament draw sheet, before moving past it without a second thought. But then, she begins to win, not merely surviving, but dominantly dismantling established Grand Slam champions who had stood upon the grandest athletic stages, and delivered when it mattered most. One by one, round after round, she defeats them, reaching the semifinals and forcing the global tennis establishment to stop and watch, because wildcard entries simply are not supposed to achieve this magnitude of success against opponents of that caliber. The exact moment that historic result officially landed, a profound psychological shift resonated far beyond the physical boundaries of the tennis court. Back in the Philippines, a nation of over 100 million people where basketball is religion and tennis has historically felt like someone else's sport, people stopped scrolling and leaned forward. They began showing up in droves, driven by brief online clips tearing through Filipino social media and spreading through diaspora communities in Europe, North America, and the Middle East. Millions of overseas Filipino workers scattered across the globe suddenly possessed a profound, unifying reason to crowd around digital screens together and experience a powerful emotion they had not felt in an incredibly long time. Genuine pride here was a young, left-handed, entirely fearless Filipina woman standing proudly on a prestigious WTA 1000 court, looking as though she belonged there by divine right. Once that powerful feeling of absolute belonging takes a firm hold, it does not fade away. Instead, it systematically organizes, and it travels globally. This reality brings us directly back to those crowded walkways at Roland Garros, where the administrative staff found themselves completely overwhelmed by the sheer volume of supporters who had passionately flown in from Germany, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, and across France. One woman, Leiden Barcilla, reportedly drove from Germany and waited outside the practice facility for hours in the elements, simply to stand close enough to watch Alexandra Eala hit tennis balls, desiring to feel that something extraordinary was possible. When you sit with that image of a woman waiting in the cold outside a practice court, you realize this was never really about tennis. It is about something older and more urgent. What it means to grow up watching a sport where every champion and iconic face looks nothing like you, your family, your neighborhood, or your history. When that is the specific world you navigate, a small, whispering voice constantly murmurs that this place was never truly meant for people like us. You do not even consciously realize how overwhelmingly loud that internal voice has been, until the historic day arrives when someone who looks exactly like you confidently walks out onto a Grand Slam court, and that negative voice suddenly goes completely silent. That is the profound work Alexandra Eala is performing right now, silencing a restrictive voice that has been whispering doubt to millions of people for multiple generations. However, global fame at this unprecedented scale never arrives without immense weight, and she has had to independently figure out how to carry that burden. At just 20 years old, she has spoken with striking openness about the difficult period when public attention began multiplying exponentially. Calling it a phase of psychological denial, she found it incredibly difficult to reconcile the private version of herself, the young athlete who was still actively learning her game on clay, with the public version that 100 million passionate people had rapidly transformed into a grand cultural symbol. That gap between who you are and who the world decides you represent is a chasm that has broken people far more experienced than her. Yet she emerged from that denial with absolute clarity, understanding with profound maturity that her first obligation is always to herself, to her game, and to the work, rather than to the cameras or the crushing weight of expectation. She recognizes that the exact moment she begins playing primarily for the entertainment of the crowd instead of for herself, her entire performance will inevitably fall apart. This rare mindset is the exact juncture where Rafael Nadal prominently re-enters her narrative, because his distinct competitive fingerprints are visible all over the elite athlete she has become. Late last year during the off-season, he selected Alexandra Eala as his primary practice partner for his return to the court, after more than a year away. For a 22-time Grand Slam champion, to choose a 20-year-old from the Philippines to share such a vulnerable professional moment speaks volumes. She absorbed his wisdom with the exact same quiet hunger that has characterized her existence since the momentous day she first stepped off that plane in Majorca. That fierce hunger is vividly visible on the court today. After winning an incredibly grueling, intensely physical 3-set match in Rome against the formidable Magdalena Freck, she immediately pulled her coaching team aside and delivered an intense self-critique that left onlookers completely stunned. She explicitly stated that she had not been finishing points hard enough, meaning her primary note to herself after a brutal victory on clay was that she had not suffered enough or pushed her body to its absolute, agonizing edge. And yet, the red clay is consistently humbling her. Her first full professional clay court season has been simultaneously beautiful and brutally harsh, marked by spectacular victories in Rome and tough, educational losses in Stuttgart. Linz and Strasbourg. Clay severely punishes impatience, demanding a patient approach that directly challenges Eala's natural instinct as an aggressor who plays fast and attacks relentlessly. This makes her first-round draw at the French Open almost poetically cruel. She faces Iva Jovic, a brilliant 18-year-old American currently playing the best tennis of her life. The cinematic irony of this matchup is that they know each other intimately, having successfully played doubles together twice this season now. They must face each other across the net in singles with the full heavy weight of history pressing down on one side of the court beyond Jovic. The draw tightens dramatically, with Emma Navarro, Naomi Osaka, and the dominant world number 1, Aryna Sabalenka, looming ahead. But the crowds in Paris are here to witness the fight, a narrative already vastly bigger than a single player, with Indonesia's Jasmine Anissa breaking into the top 50. These two women from Southeast Asia are affectionately called the Sea Sisters, representing a tectonic, irreversible shift in who this sport ultimately belongs to. Here in Paris 2026, win or lose, a monumental shift has transpired that no future match result can ever undo. The world looked. The world listened, and the world finally found out that the sport of tennis has always been vastly bigger than the countries that thought they owned it. Because Alexandra Eala didn't just arrive at Roland Garros, she arrived, and the sport will never look exactly the same again.